Okay, so like I was discussing before the first video, is now I want to show you how to go ahead and set this up for an angle. Now we squared this up, which means this is at 90 degrees to the table saw blade. I'm going to remove this tri-square because this is at 90 degrees only, right? Over here. Now this plastic triangle is enormous in size, but I can take this, place this right here, and I can go ahead and tilt my blade there's our 45-degree angle, okay? So it's touching all the way along. This is sitting in the bed. This part of the plastic square is sitting right here along the bed, and then this edge is completely laid up against the blade, so that way I know this is at a 45-degree angle, okay? So if I was to go ahead and rip a piece of material, I need to go ahead and bring my guard down, bring this part of the guard down, put this in place, and this is at my 45-degree angle, so if I wanted to cut this at a 45-degree, I would have this here, I have my fence over here, I lock this down, and I go ahead and I can cut this, and this would cut that 45-degree angle, okay? So, I'm going to slide this back over here, put my material on the top. Now, I need to bring this back at 90 degrees because what I'm just trying to do is square up the board, right? And also I want to do this safely. So, I know, I need to bring this back significantly. One thing also is, the table saws come with these little fingers that show this angle, but here's the problem. Watch this, see how it says 40 degrees? Oh, what, now it's 30 degrees? That's not gonna work out for you. Even if you had this tightened up, I wouldn't trust it. There are digital angle finders. And what you do with this is, it has a magnet on it. I'm going to not advertise for them. What you will do is you'll take this, you'll have it set at 90 degrees with your tri-square, put it on here, turn it on, zero it out. And as you tilt your blade, it'll tilt, this will tilt, and inside of here, it'll start reading out what degree angle it is. So let's say you needed a 22.5 degree, you could actually get that with this, okay? So this can be pretty handy if you needed to get some delicate work in there. If you're making a staved table or base that was multiple pieces, if it was 4 pieces, 8 pieces, 16 pieces, 32 pieces, I would say set this up with this. That way you're becoming the most accurate as possible, okay? Now what I want to do is I want to flip this back up, because I would like to bring the table saw blade back to 90 degrees. So I'm going to take my tri-square and I'm going to start turning the hand wheel on the side here. And as I'm doing that, the blade is coming up to bring it closer and closer to 90 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to there. It's exactly at 90, okay? And I'm going to remove my square, or tri-square. I'm going to take my piece of material here. I'm going to place this down, and now I always want to have my table saw blade 1/8 of an inch above the material. So I'm going to bring this down, and that's about 1/8 of an inch above the material. Okay? As you remember from yesterday and the day before, we planed this face, we planed this face. This edge was jointed on the joiner. This edge is still in the rough. Okay? You don't joint both edges. That will not make it perfectly parallel. So, bring this down, lock that in place. Now, I only need to take off a little bit of this. I want to make this board exactly 8 inches in width, okay? Now, when I place my hands down on here, hand placement is really important. I want to make sure I'm holding this material down firmly onto the bed surface, okay? My other hand is here, pushing this in this direction, keeping it nice and tight to the fence. If this material comes away from the fence just a little bit, actually let me just slide this over. You see how this is touching along the surface of the fence nice and tight? That's good. But let's say I was pushing this through and it came away from the fence just a little bit, let's just say that much, okay? That could cause binding in the blade and you can kick it back. And that's something that you really do not want to happen. Dangerous things can happen, and especially your classmates, if they're behind here, that's a bad place for them to be, okay? That's why when you're operating the saw, you're the only person using it, one operator, okay? Now, worst place for someone to be standing, if you're like the next person in line, is don't stand over in this area right here. Essentially, anything in this area right here is a bad place to be, okay? If you're next in line, like you're waiting to use a table saw, you should be waiting over here, okay? As long as there's someone that's not on either one of these two machines, okay? You should be waiting up to this side, out of the way, not a distraction for that person, okay? Especially if you have someone on a table saw, you do not want to distract them, all right? All right, perfect. So, I'm gonna go ahead and set this at, I'm gonna set my scale at 8 inches. And as you can see up here, we have a scale on here, this whole ruler. It goes all the way to 52 inches, but I need a finished dimension of 8 inches. So I have that locked down in place. My fence is locked down, that way it won't slide. This is really important whenever you're ripping material that the fence does not slide on you. Because if you're ripping a board and the fence wasn't locked down, it could slide on you, and then we're gonna have a problem. You're guaranteed to have a kickback and something bad could happen, and we wanna avoid anything from bad from happening in here, okay? Now remember, on this edge here where the fence is, that's the side where the jointed side of the board goes. The rough side of the board, that's still kind of gnarly, is the side that is getting cut off, okay? Really important for you to make sure you're there, okay? If you go around this way, and then that way you can see from right there where it's safe. So when I'm holding this down nice and flat, and I'm making sure I'm supporting the lumber here, and I'm bringing it through the blade on this angle. Now when I push this through, I want to make sure I get through the whole blade before I let go. One thing that I didn't show you is these are the anti-kickback fingers. So you want to make sure these are down. So it'll help as an aid, but it's not a guarantee, okay? When you turn on the power, you want to make sure it gets to full operating speed before you go ahead and start cutting, all right? As you know, I turned off the power on here after I wanted to show you just the blinking lights to show you that if your body does come in contact with it, the machine knows it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around this side.